Brazil Real Estate Investor Visa. Hello, I'm Luciano Oliveira, Brazilian attorney also licensed in the United States and managing partner at Oliveira Lawyers. If you are looking to secure residency in Brazil through real estate, this is your ultimate guide. A quick orientation before we start. This video is long by design. It is a complete crash course. If you are short on time, use the chapters in the description to jump to the section you need. If you want the full A to Z, stay with me. We'll go step by step to help you plan, acquire, and maintain your Brazilian residency through real estate investment in Brazil. Remember to bookmark this video and save the URL in your notes so you may come back whenever you need. Now the legal bit. This is for information-only content. You must secure your own attorney when buying real estate and also when dealing with life-changing events such as immigration. Let's begin. What is the Real Estate Investor Visa? Brazil offers a residency authorization for foreign individuals who invest in real estate located in an urban area. You can purchase a built property or buy one that is under construction by a well-established developer, provided the required paperwork and value thresholds are met. The idea is straightforward. Invest at or above the minimum, prove the investment came from your own external funds through proper bank channels, show a clean background check, meet the documentation standards, and you receive a residency authorization tied to that investment. People call this route by many names such as Brazil Golden Visa, borrowed from Europe, Real Estate Investor Visa Brazil, plain English accurate description used by us and other firms, and residency authorization under RN-36, formal label tied to the legal rule that governs it. All of these refer to the same program, residency based on buying qualifying urban property, meeting the legal minimum with a proper wire transfer from abroad. Minimum investment. Nationwide, the minimum is 1 million reais. In Brazil's north and northeast regions, the law allows a reduction of up to 30%, that's 700,000 reais as of today. Keep in mind that the minimum amounts have been the same since 2018. It is just natural that these amounts will be eventually increased to address inflation in the period since then. According to our calculations, if the minimum amount is updated based on inflation alone, it should jump to almost double of what it is today. Qualifying properties. Preferred type. Built property with legal deed. Buying a built property is the cleanest path. You will present the property registry, RGI or Registro Geral do Imóvel in Portuguese, showing you are the owner of record, and a currency exchange contract from a financial institution in Brazil authorized by the Brazilian Central Bank, confirming the international transfer to the seller for the purchase, among other documents. For residency by real estate investment, the construction must be formally recorded on title. It's not enough that a building physically exists on the land. The property's matrícula at the cartório must show the averbação, recording of the structure. Otherwise, there is a substantial chance immigration will not recognize this purchase as compliant. Second option, buying off-plan is allowed, but you must buy from a well-established developer, not an individual, and the paperwork will be more complex. You will need the registered purchase and sale agreement, the building permit, and the memorial of incorporation, registered at the property registry. If you are evaluating an off-plan project, look for robust developers and structure your payment flow to pay most of the payment when the property is delivered. It does not matter how solid the track history is, there is always a risk of non-delivery when buying off-plan properties. Just think what would happen to the economy and developers if a global war was started. If you're buying off-plan, assume you will struggle to obtain the registered memorial de incorporação and the developer's foreign exchange bank declarations needed to prove your funds entered Brazil correctly, unless you have an obligation to deliver these documents written into the purchase agreement. Developers typically won't move a finger without a contractual obligation, and realtors, not surprisingly, have a very limited voice with the developers. Finally, you can only apply for the visa after you have paid at least the minimum amount to the developer. For example, if you're buying a property in Rio de Janeiro in 5 installments of 500,000 reais each, you'll not be able to apply until you have already paid for the first 2 installments reaching the minimum amount of 1 million reais. Non-qualifying properties, possession properties, possession-only properties where you hold mere occupancy rights without a registered deed and matricula at the property registry do not qualify for Brazil's real estate investor residency. These informal assets are common in less developed areas and occasionally appear in pockets of otherwise developed markets like Florianópolis, but regardless of location, they don't qualify. Rural properties. For the real estate investment visa, rural properties are excluded. In Brazil, rural isn't about scenery or distance from downtown, it's about taxation. If the property pays ITR, Imposto Territorial Rural, it is usually treated as rural and doesn't qualify. Eligible assets are those registered as urban and billed IPTU urban taxes. Foreigners face tight limits on rural land. Law brings caps in size and potential need for government authorization on the sale. Many counties will also not allow you to buy rural land unless you are already a legal resident in Brazil. Other problem properties. In Brazil, there is a substantial share of sellers trying to sell properties that are not suitable for a transaction, such as properties entangled in probates, auction, legal disputes, etc. Sellers under cash pressure get very creative in Brazil. Watch for pitches like the probate should be over any time now, fractional quotas that aren't real titles, share deals to dodge the transfer tax, sellers who haven't yet registered the property on their own names, or properties with hidden encumbrances, like mortgages, liens, life tenancy, lawsuits, and more. Bottom line, it is impossible for us to address all the properties that would not qualify for the real estate investor visa. Make sure to have the target property thoroughly reviewed by your attorney before signing any documents with the sellers or the realtors. Can you combine properties? What about co-ownership and financing? You can combine more than one property to reach the minimum, but I generally do not recommend it unless there is a strong strategic reason. Combining assets can complicate the file and the timing on top of increasing your legal costs. The exception is when you are buying 2 units from the same seller. That typically doesn't add much complexity because you can align due diligence, contracts, FX transfers, and registry events under one counterpart. Co-ownership is admitted when each investor individually meets the minimum. If 2 people buy the same unit and both want their own residence based on this rule, each must invest at least the minimum in their share. When buying with a Brazilian or someone not seeking residency, our strategy is to name only the residency interested party as the purchaser in the purchase agreement, while still securing title in both names at registration to reflect the couple's reality. This works best when you're married and can sometimes work for unmarried partners depending on the case specifics. Financing is possible for the portion above the minimum. Your own capital must meet the minimum investment. Any mortgage should apply only to the amount beyond that. Keep this in mind as you plan your down payment. Some clients do use financing obtained abroad, and that's generally fine for immigration purposes, as long as the money coming from abroad meets the minimum investment and it's brought in through Brazil's formal FX system with clean bank exchange records in your name. Finally, hold title personally. This route is designed for individuals, not companies. Title in your personal name keeps the immigration logic clean and avoids unnecessary corporate steps. Money trail. Currency exchange and records to keep. This part is crucial and often overlooked. Your funds must originate from outside Brazil and enter through the formal foreign exchange system. Work with a licensed foreign exchange bank in Brazil. Make sure the purpose of the transfer reflects a real estate purchase, and keep every document you receive: the exchange contract or receipt, the bank's declaration confirming the international transfer for the specified property, and your proof of the outgoing transfer from your home bank. We strongly advise against using retail remittance apps to drip a series of small transfers for an investment purchase. The receipts they issue are typically not compliant for immigration because they don't generate the Brazilian foreign exchange, câmbio, contract, bank declaration, tying your name and purpose, real estate purchase, to the transaction. We prefer that you wire directly to the seller through a Brazil-authorized FX bank so the exchange is formally tagged as real estate. When you send from you to yourself into your Brazilian account, the receiving bank often books it under availability instead, which doesn't clearly tie the funds to a property acquisition. We have succeeded in getting some of these cases approved in the past, but it is not guaranteed. If you wire in multiple tranches, common with off-plan milestones, each tranche should have a proper exchange documentation. Down the line, these records prove to immigration that the required minimum was met with your own external resources. Because the most immigration-compliant route is to wire directly to the seller, you also need tight payment closing timing. That's why we partner with Brazil-authorized FX banks to emulate escrow, pre-clearing your documentation and scheduling the FX conversion to release the funds to the seller's account on the same day as the signing of the deed of sale. Moving from the purchase to the immigration application. After closing, we typically wait for the updated RGI matrícula to be issued by the cartório, since that document is the definite proof that the title has been transferred to you and shows the unit free of liens and encumbrances under your name. Avoid relying on provisional paperwork, which may trigger pushbacks from the immigration officers. In parallel with the post-closing wait for the updated RGI matrícula, start collecting and currying all immigration documents so nothing stalls later. Depending on your timeline, we will tailor a stay lawful plan in Brazil while the property and immigration authorization are finalized. This can include filing for a digital nomad residency, among other strategies we developed over the years. Our preferred path: applying inside Brazil. If you are already in Brazil as a visitor, you can apply for the residency authorization from inside the country. We prepare your file, submit the application online, monitor it as it's analyzed, and once approved, we schedule your federal police registration so you can obtain your RNM ID card. This path avoids the consular step and keeps the entire process within Brazil. We prefer this route because we have a better control over the outcome of the application, and you skip on the consulate appointment abroad, which typically adds time to the overall journey unnecessarily. The consular path, a secondary option. You can also apply through a Brazilian consulate abroad for a temporary visa and then enter Brazil to register. This can make sense if you are not in Brazil yet and your property purchase is already complete with all documents in hand. The core requirements remain the same. The consulate route also makes sense when the applicant does not currently hold a visa or visa exemption to enter Brazil in the first place. Documents you will need. Let's see some of the main requirements you should expect. You will need a valid passport, a valid CPF tax ID, apostilled birth or marriage certificate showing your parents' names on it, apostilled criminal record certificates, FBI background check if you are living in the US. Currency exchange contracts. For a built property, present the property registry showing you as the owner. For an off-plan property, present the registered purchase and sale agreement, the building permit, and the registered memorial de incorporação. Foreign documents typically need to be apostilled or legalized and then translated in Brazil by a sworn translator. Plan time for apostilles and sworn translations. Actually, even getting a new birth or marriage certificate may also take substantial time in some US states and some other countries. Due diligence fundamentals you should never skip. Here is a short list of what we treat as non-negotiable. Start at the property registry. Pull the current matricula and check the full chain of title. Confirm there are no liens or encumbrances that would block transfer. Review tax and condo fee clearances. Check seller's financials and legal history. In Brazil, we don't have title insurance, and a purchase from a seller who's upside down financially or entangled in serious lawsuits could be voided even after you attend closing, pay the price, and take possession. For off-plan, confirm the registered memorial de incorporação, the building permit, and the developer's track record. Have as little payment provided during the construction stage, leaving the bulk of the money for when the property is available for delivery. These checks help protect both your money and your immigration result. But remember, the above is just the bare minimum. Work with a qualified, licensed Brazilian attorney to assist you with your purchase. Closing mechanics, emulated escrow. Brazil isn't a traditional escrow market, though a few cartórios and banks now pilot escrow-like services. They are still uncommon and most sellers won't agree with using them. Here at the firm, we emulate escrow with a partner FX bank in Brazil. You wire from any major bank, for instance, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, etc., directly to the seller's name through a special deal-specific currency exchange account. The Brazilian FX bank holds funds and doesn't release until we give the green light, typically on deed signature day, after all milestones and conditions spelled out in the contract have been met. Avoid wiring straight to a seller's regular bank account. You lose visibility and control, and arrival is typically a hit or a miss. Some sellers clear compliance with their branch, others don't, leaving your money stuck for a long while. Our staged released FX setup documents each step, reduces risk, and keeps your immigration file clean. Step by step, from first call to resident card in hand. Here's the typical flow we see in most cases. 1. Define your target, built or off-plan, and confirm you can meet the minimum with your own capital. 2. Have the initial due diligence completed. You don't want to commit to a property that is not appropriate for real estate investor visa. 3. Complete the purchase journey for built properties, or pay the minimum qualifying amount and register the purchase contract for off-plan in addition to securing the memorial of incorporation. Remember that there is a specific way to send the money. 4. Assemble your immigration file, passport, criminal records, apostilles and sworn translations, government fee, and the property evidence we just discussed. 5. Have your attorney file the in-country application online, track it, answer any requests for documentation, and prepare for registration. 6. Once approved, register with the federal police and obtain your CRNM card. From first call to RNM in hand, plan roughly 6 months. That assumes you start your background checks and apostilles early and you coordinate your bank documentation and property timeline with your attorney from the outset. Maintaining your legal residence. Your RNM is your national migration registration card, your day-to-day ID in Brazil. You get it after you register with the federal police on the basis of your approved residence. There is also a simple but very important physical presence rule. During each 2-year period from your federal police registration date, spend at least 14 days in Brazil. Those days can be consecutive or split up. Meeting the rule protects your residence from being lost for absence. How long does the residence last? The initial residence term is usually granted for 4 years. Maintain the investment and keep your criminal record clean. When you are about to reach the 4-year mark, you may apply for the permanent residency known in Brazil as residency for undetermined period. A practical note: keep the property at least until your residence has been converted to the unlimited duration. Selling too early can put your status at risk. Even with the permanent residency, we will still recommend that you keep the property until you secure citizenship or no longer want the legal residency. As immigration regulations change often, you want to be on the safe side. Family members. Once you have secured the main residence based on your investment, your spouse or partner and your minor children can typically join you through the family reunion track. Their documents need the same care with apostilles and sworn translations. We like to plan the family timeline together with your main case so everyone's registration steps are aligned. If you want standalone investor visas, each principal must meet the minimum investment individually. A single property can cover multiple applicants if the value allocated to each meets the threshold. Otherwise, put only one principal forward and bring the rest on the family reunion track. Travel while your case is pending is possible, but coordinate with the team so you don't miss any deadlines or appointments. Keep your protocol and your entry document in sync with your nationality's requirements. Ownership and structure. What actually works? Put the property in your personal name. This is an individual investor route. If someone suggests parking the asset in a company to qualify, be careful. That's a different immigration category, typically requiring you to generate employment in Brazil, bringing unnecessary complexities for most clients. When funds just meet the minimum for one applicant, for instance, a 1 million reais purchase by a couple, structure the deal so one spouse is the buyer for immigration purposes, showing the full minimum on the deed and payment trail, while still preserving joint ownership. For instance, define fractional shares or marital property provisions. This keeps eligibility clean for the lead applicant and lets the family members piggyback without risking a shortfall. For closing costs, budget 4 to 5% on top of your attorney fees. The big ticket is the ITBI transfer tax, city tax on property conveyance, with a rate set by each municipality and tied to the higher of deed price or fiscal value. You also pay the cartório known as ofício de notas to execute the public deed and the cartório known as registro de imóveis or RGI to register title. Both follow state fee tables that scale with price. Some places add extras, for instance, state judiciary funds in Santa Catarina. And on the paperwork side, expect apostilles and sworn translations for any foreign documents used at closing, plus routine certificates on the seller, condo clearance, incumbency, and litigation search, and bank FX paperwork if funds come from abroad. Practical tips. Confirm the ITBI base the city you use before signing, ask the notary for a written fee quote, and pre-check the registry requirements so the deed records on the first try. Keep every invoice receipt. Clean documentation supports both title and your visa file. Ongoing tax obligations. This isn't tax advice, but a few hints on the obligations you may have. Merely owning a Brazilian property does not make you a tax resident. During your temporary residency, first 4 years, you usually become a tax resident if you spend over 182 days in Brazil within any 12-month period. Days don't need to be consecutive. If when your status switches to permanent, prazo indeterminado, you are a tax resident from that date regardless of day count. As a tax resident, you file annual returns and pay monthly annual taxes according to income source, Brazilian rentals, foreign income, capital gains, financial income often follow different rules and brackets. Remember, Brazil requires you to pay taxes over your global income, not just Brazil income. Brazil has tax treaties with some countries, but not with the United States. Americans typically rely on tax credit mechanics instead. Work with a licensed Brazilian CPA to optimize filings and avoid double taxation. Exit strategy. You can sell once you've secured citizenship or no longer need residency, then remit the proceeds abroad. Just budget for IOF on outbound transfers. As of now, many exits face about 3% tax, and these rates have shifted several times this year, so confirm the exact rate with your FX bank before closing. There is also a capital gain tax you need to pay over the difference in price bought versus sold. Also remember that real estate in Brazil typically appreciates steadily over time, at least in desirable urban areas, but your FX result may dominate the outcome. A stronger or weaker real can swing returns more than local price moves. Life happens. You might later qualify for permanent residency via family. For instance, marriage to a Brazilian, which can make the property-based status unnecessary. For inheritance, Brazilian courts generally honor a valid U.S. will once it is translated and validated locally, so your heirs in Brazil or the U.S. can be protected. Plan ahead with counsel on both sides. Some common pitfalls. Now, let's address some of the main mistakes we see foreign buyers making when not securing proper legal advisory, of course. 1. Don't sign anything until your attorney has vetted the property. The property should not only pass the immigration requirements, but also represent a safe purchase. Remember that there is no title insurance in Brazil, so you may lose your shirt if buying a property from a seller who doesn't have a legal title or is entangled in debt or lawsuits. Don't ignore the money trail. If your exchange documentation is sloppy or the purpose of the transfer isn't correctly recorded, you may struggle to prove eligibility. Forget about the money apps. You need real banks in Brazil handling your currency exchange. Number 3. Don't buy an off-plan unit without the registered memorial de incorporação and assurance that the seller will provide you with the currency exchange contracts. Those two documents are essential. Without them, you may be unable to apply and secure the real estate investor visa. Number 4. Don't miss the 14-day presence rule. It is simply and easy to plan for. Number 5. Don't let apostilles and sworn translations become last-minute fire drills. Start early. Number 6. Don't assume escrows exist here. Consider using a currency exchange bank that will time the release of your funds with the day of the closing. Number 7. Don't get too attached to a property until the due diligence is completed and you have signed the purchase agreement. Your willingness to walk away will help you secure price breaks and avoid bad deals in the first place. Advantages of hiring an attorney like us. We have been assisting foreign citizens acquire property in Brazil for nearly 2 decades. We understand how real estate transactions work in other countries, and we are actually licensed as attorneys both in Brazil and the United States. We run the full legal due diligence on the property, title chain, liens, taxes, and seller and litigation checks. We vet off-plan projects, including the memorial de incorporação and the developer's track record. We help you set up the FX channel correctly and keep the exchange records you need later. We draft or negotiate the purchase terms to emulate escrow, tying payments to verifiable milestones. We prepare and file your immigration case in Brazil, manage apostilles and sworn translations, monitor the process, and coordinate your federal police registration and CRNM. We also sequence the family reunion process when needed. If you want a calm, predictable path from first wire to CRNM in hand, that's what we do every week. Wrapping up, if you found this helpful, your next step is simple. On the end screen, you'll see a button to download your free guide, 7 Mistakes to Avoid When Pursuing the Golden Visa in Brazil. It is short, practical, and will save your time and stress. Remember, you can also book a consultation with us, and we can take from there. Thank you for watching. I'm Luciano Oliveira with Oliveira Lawyers. I wish you clarity and success in your path to Brazilian residency through real estate. See you in our next video.